So this week we are going to be looking at color. So again, we're talking about the elements of art, the ingredients, the building blocks, the main things that you look at when you are making art and when you are talking about art. So color is one of the main ones. It's a fun one. There's a lot you can talk about when you talk about color. We're just going to go over the basics today. So a lot of times when you talk about color, you're talking about the color wheel. And the color wheel is a tool to help you organize colors, and it also points out some relationships between the colors to help you make color look good in your artwork. So the more you understand these relationships between different colors, the better you're going to be able to use color when you go to make your own art. So the color wheel is organized with the primary colors in the middle, and we'll talk more about that. The secondary colors outside of that, and then the rest of those colors outside of that. So your primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, okay? And these are the base of all colors, okay? So you can't mix them from a tube. If you start with those, you can mix everything else, but these are the base colors. You can think about them as like the great-grandfather colors, the primary colors. So when you mix your primary colors, that's when you get your secondary colors. So we started with our red, yellow, and blue. Then our secondary colors are orange, right? When we make red and yellow together. Purple or violet. So you'll see it interchange. Some people call it violet, some people call it purple. It's the same thing. When you add red and blue, you get purple. It's another secondary color. And then blue and yellow makes green. So those are our main secondary colors, orange, purple, and green. So you can see those pointing out from the center. So here are the primary and secondary colors. And then we're talking about tertiary or intermediate colors. Those mean the same thing. So tertiary, you might have not heard that word before, but tertiary is when you mix a primary color with a secondary color. So remember, we started with our primary colors. Those were in the center. Those are the main colors. When you mixed them, you got your secondary colors. And when you mix a main primary color with one of the secondary colors, you get what's called a tertiary color. It's kind of a weird word to say. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. So here's some examples of tertiary colors. Okay, so those are the main colors on the wheel. And then when you're talking about color schemes, you're thinking about how you put them together in your artwork. Because like I said, this kind of shows you different colors look good together, and you can use that color wheel, use these color schemes to use successful color in your artwork. So some of the main color schemes that we're going to look at are primary, which we already talked about, complementary, secondary, we talked about, neutral, warm, cool, analogous, and monochromatic. So we talked about the primary colors, and if you mix them, you can get secondary colors. So that should be a review, but it's just kind of a nice slide to have them all on one. Secondary colors. Analogous color schemes, okay? So analogous is when they are close together on the color wheel. So they should flow well together because they share some of the same colors. So if you just kind of took a little segment of the color wheel and found some colors that were close together, that would be an analogous color scheme. Complementary colors are colors that are directly across from each other on the color wheel. And those are also said to look good together. Okay, so you can see some examples of this here. A lot of times sports teams will use complementary colors. So they don't have our team here, but you could think about yellow and purple is the Vikings, right? You see red and green on a lot of flags. You can also think about Christmas. Okay, so if they're directly across from each other on the color wheel, they're said to have like a visual vibration that makes them look good together. So maybe if you were drawing or painting something and you wanted to think about what would look good with the color you just laid down, you could use a color wheel to find out what's directly across from it to find its complement. And that's going to be complementary colors. Okay. Warm colors are colors that are, you can think about warm, like fire tones, sun tones. It's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, all those colors that have that warm feeling to them. Cool colors are the opposites, okay? So greens and violets are where it gets a little like, that's where it changes over, but more cool greens and more cool violets, and then all those blues and blue greens and kind of dark ocean type colors are cool colors. When we're talking about monochromatic, that just means one color and variations of that color. So you can see mono, that word, you might see it some other places, means one. This example here of the painting of the pear, it's only using greens, right? So it's using different shades of green, but it's only using green for the color and the composition. So that's a monochromatic painting. Neutral colors, okay, so these don't necessarily appear on just a standard color wheel. If you had a color wheel that had a lot of colors on it, it could. But these are white, black, gray, and sometimes brown. They're kind of muted and earthy, and they're not very bright, okay, but they can still create successful artwork. So again, some common color schemes: primary, secondary, cool, complementary. Okay, so here are the groups of complementary colors for you. We have blue and orange, red and green, and purple and yellow. Then our warm colors, our neutral colors, monochromatic, and analogous. So a lot of times artists will use their colors in their artwork to show expressiveness. Okay, so it's a tool that you can use to show a mood for your viewer. So this was Picasso. You guys might know this, but he had a whole period in his life where he went through a lot of heartbreak and went through a lot of loss. And it's called the blue period in his artwork because he only painted in blues. Okay, so it's a monochromatic, cool colors all the time because he was depressed. And that's the color that he thought he could use. He's using lots of dark shadows and dark colors to kind of show his overall feeling. And he kind of used art as a therapy tool to help him through that period to express how he was feeling with colors. You guys can kind of see that in this example from the blue period, that it was kind of like a low down feeling. And that color, that blue, really kind of brings you to that space. Okay, some more examples. When you see something like that, it's kind of bright and happy or gets your attention. So what meanings are behind different colors. Here is just kind of a quick version of what psychologists have really found colors to mean for us visually. So you can just look for a couple moments: red, love, power, strength, passion. So the top parts are kind of like the more positive emotions that they bring up for us, and the bottom is more negative feelings that they bring up for us. So it could be different for every person, but this is just what they found. So that is a really quick overview of color, and that should be everything you need to fill out the video review for color.